Hey everybody, it's me, Andy. So it's September 18th, and I just want to give an update. So it's been about a couple weeks since my last update on this project I've been working on, and I just wanted to give an overview of what I've been doing, what I've learned, and things that I'm learning at this point in the process. So if you've been following along, you've known we've been doing design meetings with this firm. We just had another one recently, which is why I'm doing this update, and as I think we're starting to really narrow down on this product and what it's really going to look like, at least as far as sketches. So things have changed. Obviously, the process will continue to change. We may have to do even more revisions after this, but things are moving along. For me personally, like the time I'm spending on this right now, I'm doing more researching on other things as far as time devotion, and not so much because the design is, I meet with a design group, and they do all the CAD and they do computer drafting and drawing and other ideas and build it in, and that's all on their end. So I don't have to spend a lot of time on that. I'm paying them to do that. But as you'll see, like that's pretty much what I'm doing. What I've learned. So one thing about doing the design work is, when I originally took this design to them and I said, this is what I want, a lot of times they said, yeah, that won't work, or you can't really do that, or things don't work that way, or it's not cost effective. So one thing I've learned, like you can have an idea for a product, but it may not turn out exactly, and I'd say for the most part, it probably won't turn out exactly what you have in your mind. Either one, if it's super complex, it may not be able to function. There was ideas that we had for this because there's a lot of different ideas we're having on this luggage that we're making in this travel system. Some things either couldn't work the way we wanted it to, so we tried to figure out workarounds. There weren't really any patent issues, even though, I'm learning more about whether that even is an issue or not. But sometimes features that you want won't work together. And then the other thing was, you have a great idea, but it may not be cost effective. So say you need to stay within a certain price range. There was a feature on our bag, on one of the bags that we wanted, or that at least I thought we maybe wanted. And they said, I can't disclose our client name, but we worked with a very large company, which means probably that's a company that everybody's heard of. And he said they have big pockets, deep pockets, where it wasn't a money issue, but we looked at a similar idea to this, and they were anticipating costs of over the $100,000 to do it, and they said no, and they pulled back and didn't do it. So for me, when I'm funding something myself, I'm like, yeah, I'm for sure not going to go down that road. $5,000 is a lot to me. A couple $100 is a lot to me. I'm not doing $100,000 for something that we could build it and it may not work. So that's one thing I've learned, in this process. Another is that, so we're talking about the actual prototype, because we are getting to final drawing stages where it's going to turn into the point of like, okay, let's source materials and let's build this. A little bit of a realization in this, meaning that your prototype may not be a working 100% functional, example of what you want to build. So I thought like we would build this and it would be like, okay, let's go beat this up. We're going to have this new travel system. Let's travel with it. Let's do all these things. Let's see how durable it is. And they said that's not necessarily the case of how this works, because they may use cheaper materials for a prototype. Like we're doing just a working prototype. They said mainly the idea of a prototype to see is can this actually even work together? Not that it's going to be exactly how it's made. So I'm sure some you can make exactly how you will, but at least for this working prototype, like I thought it was, we can test this out and do all these things with it. It's just going to be like the final product. And what I learned is that that's not necessarily true. It may be, like I said, made with cheaper materials. They just want to see, can this configuration even work at all? So the next thing, like I said, was I had on the list was final product. Your final product. There's things I had in mind originally, and I know that they're going to change. And then there's other things, we're going to have to do without because of cost. And maybe it's driving like the weight or the size or the cost too high, or like my cost to actually build tooling to build this will be too high. So, your final product isn't going to be perfect. It may not be exactly what you thought of, but, in talking with other people, it basically said, you know, if you're not probably a little bit embarrassed about what you bring out, you probably release too late. So if you're waiting for perfection, I mean, I know there's an importance to first to market, but you don't want to release a total piece of crap either. So yeah, it's just up to you. Maybe it's a personality thing. I want this to be great, especially with my name on it, but I know it's not going to be exactly what I wanted because we're a startup company and I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to go poof, let's see what happens. Like, I have to be very frugal with my decisions. So that's kind of what I've been doing. That's kind of what I've learned in the process. Like I said, I've had more downtime just this last couple weeks because it was more meeting with the design team, and they're doing a lot of the work right now, and I'm just paying them. So I've been focusing on my current job to make as much money as I can so I can pay for all this stuff while they do what they do well, because my drawings would look terrible. What I'm doing really with my own time is just studying. We still had a couple samples come in from Alibaba, which, you know, I had to spend a lot of money for and look at them and say, well, you know, we're not going to use these, which sucks, but that's part of the process. I know that, I think I mentioned this before, as I've heard, you know, horror stories of, the big one was the Coolest Cooler, where they were dealing with a company for their motor, and that company went on strike or out of business, and it basically put them out of business. So I wanted to weed out any red flags from distributors, especially if we were so dependent on a part that they offered. So like I said, I'm studying a lot these couple weeks. It's just I look at probably more rested than I did in other videos. I'm learning a lot about licensing the idea. You know, we will sell this, but do I want to sell it, you know, be the only one to sell this, or do I want to go to another company to sell this idea? I'm doing more research on that. So if anyone can even help me out or send comments on, you know, if you've ever sold an idea to another company, I've certainly looked at things online that, you know, you may not need a patent to sell an idea, or maybe you should. But it'll be something we'll look into. And I've read, like, the second you go for a patent and submit, then you have basically like a year or two or something to try to sell your idea if you're not going to actually make it yourself. The second part of that is I'm trying to learn more about patents. I have not met with a patent attorney at this point. I will, though, at some point. We're waiting actually for more drawings to come back, which is what was advised to me by our engineering team. They said you can't really, you know, patent something until you have some real professional drawings, which we're going to start hammering out. I looked a lot about patents, and if you watch Shark Tank, they're always like, you have to have a patent. We don't want your idea if you don't have a patent. And then I see other people saying, who've had a lot of businesses, and they've said, I have never patented anything, nor is it even necessary to do so. So I'm doing more research on that. I don't know, because patenting is something super expensive. I mean, so I've heard. I haven't gotten to final numbers, but I'm hearing, like, you know, tens of thousands, maybe even $100,000 to patent something, and is it even worth it to patent it? So I'm learning more about that. I'm also learning a lot more about marketing. One thing I've learned about talking to marketing folks is, you know, I'm talking more about social media marketing, is that, you know, you can pay a lot for marketing. You can pay I had people ask for percentages of when we launch this thing, like 5% or 10% of sales, or we want this much money up front. And then I talked to a buddy, because there's a lot of, like, start your own marketing firm, you know, I see it on Facebook all the time, like ads like, oh, you can start your own company and marketing to firms. I did it. But I think a lot of those people, yes, they're doing it and they're doing it well, and they maybe even did it early, or they're just good at marketing themselves. But when talking to my buddy who has a small business doing that, he just says, you know, the marketing tools that these big companies use that charge a lot for are the same tools the small guys use too. You know, if you're going to market on Facebook, there's only so many features they have, and if you're going to market, everybody has access to the same thing. So basically what he's saying is don't spend a ton of money. First, you know, if two different people are offering that. I'm yet to know if that's different or not. I'm sure some people will argue with me, especially, you know, people that use that and sell their practice. I'm just saying I don't know. That's my, so any feedback you can give would be great, but something I'm looking into is marketing on all these social media platforms in addition to, you know, hitting the phones and doing my own on the ground sales and research for marketing. The other thing I'm looking for is doing better YouTube videos. Like the first ones I did were pretty terrible. This is probably not the best video either, but want to put some better content out there, so you know, the videos just look like a little better quality and things like that. So that's about it. Any comments, let me know, but we have a couple of meetings coming up, you know, when we get final drawings, and I'm super excited. I'm starting to get excited to see what this is actually going to look like. And you know, we have parts that are you know, reliable, and now we're going to potentially build something soon. So all right, thank you so much, and thanks for following me. Feel free to subscribe, or you can like us on the other platforms on Facebook or Twitter, and hopefully we'll keep in touch. Thanks. Bye-bye.